There are many costs of being an entrepreneur. There'll be many sleepless nights. There's the aspect of being misunderstood, even from, at family level, where you find that you're in business 5 years down the line, and your parents are still telling you not to be worried, you'll still get a job. Bado utapata kazi.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneur's Blueprint with Anthony Njagi. We are so excited about the comments and the excitement that people are having from the previous video that we had about Gen Zs at the workplace. We are thrilled that actually these are things that are happening, and well, of course, this is the right thing. So this is the channel that great entrepreneurs will come from. So today we are here with Sir Anthony Njagi. He is an author of 3 books, the What Kenyan Entrepreneurs Never Tell You, The Street Smart Entrepreneur, and Thriving Entrepreneurs. He is also the CEO of Altocom Technologies. And today we will be talking about entrepreneurship in full and wide. So Mr. Anthony, what made you get into entrepreneurship?
Thank you, Lillian. It's wonderful to be here again. And as you said, it's a great thing to see that people are engaging with what we are sharing. Thank you for what you're doing with Touching Lives podcast. Thank you also to Paris for what you're doing with Emerald Events. Thank you for putting this interview together. You guys are doing great, and I wish you the very best in all that you're doing. To come to your question, of course, it's a question I get asked many times over. How did you get into business? And I want to say that contrary to what this interview may want to allude, the Entrepreneur's Blueprint, this was never in my original blueprint of life. I was admitted in campus in the year 2007 to pursue a course in business and management. And as I was pursuing that course, I remember together with friends, we would ask ourselves, where should we specialize? Which course has the most employability prospects? And some people would go the accounting way as a specialty. Others would go the banking and finance way. Others would go the management science way. Others would go the insurance way. Others would go the marketing way. And I remember initially I chose to specialize in insurance. But unfortunately there was no critical mass. So we were told that a lecturer cannot come and teach 3 people. So we had to be deflected to other courses. And I think at that point I looked at the next available one for me. Of course, I couldn't go to accounting and management science. Me seemed to mathematics sana. So I thought that banking and finance was manageable. And I started, of course, envisioning a career in banking and probably at some point exit, take a loan, start a business, because in me, I've always been an entrepreneur. I mean, even when you read my first book, What Kenyan Entrepreneurs Never Tell You, right from introduction, you will see that my entrepreneurial instincts were sharp as early as when I was in primary school. At the time at which my grandfather bought me a motorbike, not a motorbike, a BMX bike, those 2 small, nice green bikes. And when he bought me that bike, I remember I would hire it out to my peers, at around 5 shillings for a 100-meter ride. And they would pay, and I would feel good. I mean, even when the bike needed repairs, I would just get money from what I had saved or what I had made from the bike itself. So the entrepreneurial bug beat me quite early in life. I remember my grandmother also would at some point give me bananas to go and sell. She used to sell bananas, ripe bananas. And the idea was to sell 5 at 10 bob, but I think I would take the 5 at 10 bob and sell at 4 at 10 bob. And the extras would eventually make an extra 10 here, an extra 10 there. And that was in my primary days. At one point I remember even selling kangumu. So really, even as I was going through the motions of I want to pursue banking and finance, deep within there was a seed of entrepreneurship that had already been planted. And I think it was only a matter of time before I rediscovered that. Fast forward to our 3rd year, we have he broke home for the holidays, and I think it was at that time that, of course, I would never go home for the long holidays. I would be left back in schools hustling. I was selling insurance at that time with a company called CFC Life, Long Live CFC Life. And I remember there's that long holiday in the middle of my hustling. A friend who had left a year earlier, he had just completed his 4th year. Remember I said we were in the long holiday. The guy, his name was Martin. Martin Waigwa. Martin had left a year earlier and gone to Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya, for those who are watching from different parts of Africa. And the globe. So Martin came with a stock of phones, memory cards, flash disks, you know, those accessories that he needed to have somebody to assist him in selling. And I remember he came, and because I was hanging around in school, of course I was staying in the hostel as I continued hustling through the holiday. When he came, he took me out for one day to go for a marketing experience. And I remember that day we sold quite some amount. I've documented that in my book again. And after we sold that amount, Martin had to go back to Nairobi. And he had established a market base during the time that he came. So he told me, Anthony, why don't I start sending you stuff, and we will agree if a phone is supposed to be sold at, say, 1,100. Those are the days of those Nokia 3310. If it's going at 1,100, I will want you to pay me 1,150, but you will decide how much you will sell it at. So I think he would send some phones at 1,100, expecting 1,150, but I would sell at 1,200. Remember, I'm selling to resellers, so it was a wholesale kind of arrangement. And I think the first time now he sent the items, I went around the places we had visited the first time he came, and the customers were still waiting. So it was an easy sale that day. And I sent Martin his money plus the profits, and it was quite something. Until now, he was convinced that this now should be regular. And of course, he started sending me more of the phones and accessories. And after that, I remember I realized that I cannot just be sustained by one market. In this case, that was Kisii market. And I started going out to neighboring towns, the likes of Migori, Awendo, Nyamira, and I had a schedule every week after classes, the days that I didn't have many classes. I would actually leave class very fast and go to Nyamira, leave class very fast, go to Homa Bay, leave class very fast, go to Migori. And progressively, the market base continued growing. At this time, Martin also got a job with a very reputable bank in the country, and it got to a point where it was becoming a little bit of a challenge even to reconcile the stocks. So eventually, long story short, he asked me, why don't we convert this money into capital that I will deem to have supplied to you, then you will be paying me back monthly plus interest. And it sounded like a very good arrangement. So we converted the cash. It was 100,000 at that time, and we decided that I'll be paying him 6% per month, as it were. So I would pay him 6,000 every month on top of the, you know, the 100. And then of course at some point we decided that why don't we just, you know, do a payback, and then I start running the business as my own. By this time he had now even moved from, you know, CBA to Deloitte and Touch, which is one of the big 5 audit firms. And Martin graciously allowed me now to start running the business as my own. At this time, he had introduced me to his suppliers. He had introduced me to the networks in Nairobi. So I would even order for items from where I was, and the suppliers, riding of course on Martin's goodwill, would still send the items, and in some cases even send extra, then I would repay over time. So that's how I found myself in the space where I currently am, because of course after the phones, a long story, got to the business of doing computers, but that is how it all started. Yes.
Wow, that is quite a story. I mean, everyone has a story, and we only need a platform to share, and this is the platform for entrepreneurs to really share their stories about business. So in your opinion, what's the most rewarding part about entrepreneurship?
The most rewarding part about entrepreneurship is the fact that you get to think and experiment a lot. I mean, today I can decide to fold my computer business and start selling cows, you know. I can decide to fold my computer business and start selling clothes, or convert it to a mini supermarket or a supermarket, as it were. I'm allowed to think. I'm allowed to think and to execute. One of the limitations that I consider of being, you know, of course the flip side is being employed, is the fact that sometimes you can have really wonderful thoughts, but really if they do not resonate with the ownership of the business or the management, as it were, they may never see the light of day. But from where I sit, I can experiment. I can experiment, and I can keep on growing. And actually, one of the core values of Altocom is Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. I can reimagine things. I can reimagine things, and I have done that many times over. Even from, you know, the storefront, from where we sell, I have reimagined the place many times over. I have reimagined my business many times over, and you know, I have at some point sold Mtumba shoes. I have sold there's a time that the business was purely dealing with menwear. I mean menswear. It's just selling shirts and very nice, you know, sweaters. At some point I have been selling, you know, ladies' shoes. I have gotten to a point where I was selling on one side ladies' shoes and on the other side computers, until I saw that I'm confusing people, because how do you come, it's the same store. And really I have continuously reimagined myself. Even writing books, it's part of, you know, the reimagining, the rethinking. The fact that we also do trainings for people who want to start up. Like there's a lady, wonderful lady called Susan, who owns Susie's Beauty Shop. She actually paid for a 1-month training to just come and be trained on the basics of running a business, to be trained on how to market, how to, you know, as little details even on which bank account to open. And she's doing so well. Many times nowadays when I call her, most likely she'll tell me I'll call you back, because she's always having a customer. I am so impressed when I see, you know, but then the point is, I have gotten to a point where I thought that you know, I can even train others on what I have learned in the course of these years. And even when I write also as a way of sharing what I have learned, what is practical, because people are used to reading books which are developed in the West, far-flung areas, but I talk of Kenyan stories, I talk of African stories, I give African examples, I give examples of people who are flourishing in the business. And of course, while at it, it also gives me something, because I sell my books, of course, affordably, but they still give me something out of the same. I do trainings on entrepreneurship. I have actually even traveled out of this country on trainings and keynote addresses. So when I look at the aspect of being an entrepreneur, one of the most important things that I can say to answer your question is that the most rewarding part is that it allows me to think and execute. It allows me to experiment and carry through those experiments. It allows me to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes without a penalty or without the risk of being fired, as it were. Yes. Just
as we stick to that risk of being fired, of course, entrepreneurship is, well, of course, your story is so sweet, and one might think it was a smooth run, but I would just want to ask, has there ever been a point where you questioned your decision into getting into entrepreneurship and business, or has it just been a smooth run?
Hey, thank you, Lillian. Perhaps the more appropriate question would have been, how many times, you know, in a month do you question whether you're doing the right things? Many times over, many times over. You know, one thing that people don't understand is that when you are an entrepreneur and probably an employer, when everybody's looking forward to end month, you're not, because that's when the bills fall due. That's when you're supposed to pay rent. If you have employees, that's when you're supposed to be paying them. Where you stay, probably the dates also fall due for, you know, rent and utilities. So really, There are times when the taps are so dry that you start feeling like, and of course, again, issues of people who are in employment, they can look forward to a pension, that kind of thing. Most of us, from where we sit, really, those are not things that we really look forward to. But yes, there are many times that I still question whether I'm in the right space. There are many times, especially when the taps are dry, especially when the bills are due, especially when you owe suppliers and things are not moving. Those times you question whether you are in the right space.
Or whether you should have taken on a different direction.
Exactly.
So just one word for someone who wants to pursue entrepreneurship, who is looking forward to be a great entrepreneur in Kenya, in Africa, or in the world, what would you tell them even as we bring this to a close?
There's something we learned in business, in our business classes. It's called the cost-benefit analysis. The cost-benefit analysis. We call it the CBA. When you look at the costs of being an entrepreneur, as I said, there are bothers in terms of the bills to pay. There are bothers in terms of sometimes things are not moving. There are bothers in terms of sometimes competition is too strong. Those are costs. Those are some of the costs that one has to bear. A poor credit rating is one of the costs that most entrepreneurs have to bear. Where even no bank can, give you even a loan. They keep on talking of security, yet the guy with a payslip, you just walk in. They're actually being forced to take a higher loan amount that they think they need. There are many costs of being an entrepreneur. There'll be many sleepless nights. There's the aspect of being misunderstood, even from, at family level, where you find that you're in business 5 years down the line, and your parents are still telling you not to be worried, you'll still get a job. There's that aspect. But when you look at the benefits, I would say that the benefits of being an entrepreneur far outweigh the costs. In which ways? As I said, an entrepreneur is allowed to think and execute. An entrepreneur has freedom, probably more than a person who is employed, and that's a fact. Sometimes I can decide to reschedule my day without necessarily having to report to someone about the same. Entrepreneurs have a very real opportunity to make a huge influence and a huge difference in the society. I mean, entrepreneurs are job creators, they are wealth creators. Entrepreneurs make the world a better place. And when you look at the mission of Altocom, because you have a very clearly spelled out mission. Our mission is to play our part in accelerating Africa's growth from an underdeveloped continent to an economic powerhouse through IT and entrepreneurship. I believe change, civilization rides on the efforts of entrepreneurs. I was watching a documentary, a wonderful one that I would recommend for everyone. It's called The Men Who Built America. And when you read that, or rather when you watch that documentary, it's a 6-part series, the one that I was watching. The Fords, the Rockefellers. When you look at the men who built America, all of them without exception are entrepreneurs. So it's a space where somebody can make a lasting impact, a legacy as it were, and of course impact and touch many, many, many lives. Yes, in a positive way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony, for those insightful words. You are Solomon II. A wise man indeed. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this. We really look forward to getting more comments and your insights that you have gotten from this particular video. So my name is Lillian. See you on the next.